All right, so this is the best college football show in the South. Welcome to Ball Down South with Brad, John, and David. We're going to get it started off with who do we think is going to win the Big 12? John, you go first.
The Big 12. I got Oklahoma. I feel like Brent Venables is doing a heck of a job, especially in recruiting. And now that's not to say that, because, everybody says, oh, Texas is back. But I really believe that this might be the year Texas actually does something. Sarkisian had a tough season last year, but you got to look at the recruits that he got coming in and some of the NIL deals that they got. And I just feel like, from top to bottom, 1-2 is probably Texas and Oklahoma if I really had to get down to it.
But if you had to pick one, you're going with the Horns.
No, I'm going with Oklahoma.
You're going with Oklahoma?
Yes, sir.
I thought you were saying my fault. All right. Brad, who you got?
Well, so I'm going to go with Baylor Bears. That's who won it last year. I think that Dave Aranda's done a great job there. He's going through the coaching ranks. I think he gets the most out of his players, and his defense. Man, them players, they play with a mean streak. The line of scrimmage, they play a little nasty. The Baylor Bears do, and I kind of like that. They were the winners last year, and I'm going to go with the Baylor Bears.
All right. I like an underdog, you know that. But I'm gonna give this point to John. So John, I like where you're going with that. I could totally see them running away with it. So Brad, you're talking about Baylor. They're a little bit of an underdog, but they're not as big as some of the underdogs. Who's your sleeper in the Big 12?
Well, if I'm going to go with a sleeper, David, I'm going to have to go with the Texas Longhorns this time.
All right.
And I know that's not a big sleeper, but considering what they've done the last couple of years, they brought in Steve Sarkisian. He kind of had a tough year last year. I think they went 5-7 after some big expectations last year. So they brought in the former 5-star Ohio State quarterback, and he's going to be controlling their offense this year. They brought in a bunch of people from the transfer portal as well, and I'm going to have to go with Texas. I think they've improved quite a bit. And if I was going to go with a sleeper besides some of the regulars, I'm going to have to go with Texas.
Okay. So you got Texas, Brett, or John, who you got?
I got Texas. I'm on the same boat, but if I had to pick another little sleeper, it would be TCU.
TCU. See, I like TCU, baby.
I like TCU. I think TCU is going to have a really good team this year. And I even think once Oklahoma and Texas move over to the S.E.C, that could possibly be, their home place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like that they'll be the top dog in the Big 12.
Yeah, I feel that too. I feel very similar. So, it's just them and a couple other schools right there all gonna be itching to get to the top of this. I'm gonna give that one to Brad. He came up with it. He spoke it first, so he's gonna get the point on that one. He's the first one to it. That's kind of how this is gonna go. First one to the idea is the first one's gonna get the point. So John, we talked about sleepers, we talked about the Big 12, and we talked about Texas and Oklahoma. When they're gone, who's going to be the top dog? Is that who you're going to stick with? Is TCU, or are you going to go
Yes,
with
sir.
Morgantown? Who we giving?
I'm going with. I'm giving it to TCU.
Giving it to TCU. What about you, Brad?
When Texas and Oklahoma are gone, and it's, there's several teams to choose from. I'm going to probably have to go with Oklahoma State. I think Mike Gundy has done one heck of a job at Oklahoma State. Minus when he played with Barry Sanders in the late 80s, the only time Oklahoma State's ever really been good is when Mike Gundy has been there, either as a player or a coach.
Now, see, I'm going to tell you what. Who has been in the top 10 more recently, Oklahoma State or TCU? and I'll tell you, it's been Oklahoma State. So I'm gonna give that point to Brad. You know, just I feel like they could be there. They were there as early as a couple years ago. You know, they've been there very recently. If Texas and Oklahoma are gone, I could see them getting there again very quickly. So, Brad. Okay, so if those top dogs are gone, you know, who's the best non-power 5 team? Is it coming from the Big 12? Where are they coming from?
Is this
I
for
think. Go ahead.
all right?
This is for anybody who's toss up.
All right, non-Power 5 schools. I mean, most people are going to pick Cincinnati or Houston this year. I feel like Cincinnati made the college football playoff last year. Didn't have a great showing, but they made the college football playoff last year. And I feel like most people's going to go with Cincinnati or Houston. I'm going to go with the kind of a sleeper of the bunch. I'm going to go with the BYU Cougars.
Really?
Yeah, the BYU was 10-3 last year. They have their starting quarterback back, Jaron Hall. He threw for over 2,500 yards, had over 20 TDs, only threw 5 picks. And their schedule this year, just to throw a few things out early on, they have a chance to make some noise. They play Notre Dame and Arkansas. And even before that, they play Baylor and Oregon.
Okay. See, I'm a big
And
BYU.
so early on in September, they play Baylor and Oregon. And I believe they have a chance to maybe make a little noise. So that's who I'm going to go with.
Yeah, see, and they're independent too, so that's always beneficial. You know, you make your own schedule. But John, there's only one way to win this point. I'm gonna tell you right now. If you can answer it right, it's all yours, buddy. Who's gonna be the team that makes it non-power 5?
I gotta say Memphis.
That's who it is, buddy.
They
Tigers.
they play Mississippi State first game, and that's a big opportunity for not Mississippi State. It's a big opportunity for Memphis to show that they're for real. And you know, Mississippi State's going to have a really good team. You know, they got Will Rogers coming back. They got a lot of starters coming back, and I feel like that a win there, I believe Mississippi State, or not Mississippi State, Memphis will have an opportunity to make some noise down the road.
Yeah.
Because you put a win like that on the schedule, especially like a SEC team,
Yeah.
you're going to get some recognition out in the polls.
Yeah, and we've already seen an ACC or an AAC team do it, so we know it's possible. The road's been paved a little bit. It's not insane for them to try to get their knock on the door again. Maybe not get in, but make some noise. You know, those boys in Memphis could do it. I could see that. Now BYU, I don't say that they're all the way out, but I think they got some growing to do.
Didn't Memphis beat Mississippi State last year?
Yes, but
Pretty sure they did.
There was one point in that game though where Memphis benefited from a call on the punt. That was a really bad call, but
there was a bad call in that game. I will agree with that.
But I will say this: if you're looking at overall the SEC, the officiating, I'll just be honest with you, it's all over the board. It's bad. So
hey, we're gonna get to the SEC, all right? But let's talk about those boys up north, all right? What about the Big Ten? Who's taking the Big Ten this year? That's a curveball and a half. That's a curveball with a change built into it. There you go. And let's give it to John first, because you know we don't know nothing about the Big Ten.
Ohio State, and I'm taking Ohio State against the field. I just don't see a team in that region that can hang with Ohio State, especially with the way Ohio State's recruiting right now. There's only one team that maybe could do it, and that's maybe Penn State. There's one team that is a sleeper pick, and I'll just throw this out there, is Michigan State, Mel Tucker. He's doing a wonderful job at Michigan State right now. His recruiting's off the charts. But I don't think they're at that point yet to where they can beat Ohio State. So I just think what Ryan Day is doing at Ohio State is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, Coach Day is putting work in for real. What about you, Brad?
Listen, I try to be different, but on this one for the Big Ten, it's got to be Ohio State.
Yeah.
I mean, the winner, the only team to me that maybe would have a chance would be Michigan. But I just don't believe you know, Ohio State last year in the Michigan game had some trouble in the trenches, defensive wise.
Yeah.
They brought in Jim Knowles
Yeah.
as the defensive coordinator to kind of shore that side up. That's who Ryan Day brought in, was Jim Knowles, and I believe you put C.J. Stroud and Travion Henderson and a few of the players that Ohio State's got and the talent they have, and I think the Big Ten's going to be Ohio State.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, Michigan had a defensive Heisman finalist last year and still couldn't get it done. So
Yeah.
we're gonna give it to John on that one. You know, his idea, he went first. It's his point. So Brad, you know, you went first in a couple of picks here. So you know, we said John already said he's gonna go Ohio State or the field, but here's my thing with that. Ohio State has a tendency for it coming out of the gate fast as hell and then dropping one to Indiana midseason. Are we gonna take Ohio State against the field? Because I can't take Ohio State against the field, not the college football field. Because I'm telling you right now.
Well, if you're gonna say a sleeper, I mean, John mentioned it a while ago, but Michigan State, you know, I think they would have an outside chance. You know, Kenneth Walker's gone, but they have Peyton Thorne back. I mean, he's fresh off 3,200 plus yards passing. He had like 27 TDs, about 10 INTs last year. And they got one of their better wide receivers back, Jaden Reed. He had over 1,000 yards and 10 scores last year, averaged over 18 yards a catch. Offensively, I think Michigan State could be there. It's whether or not Mel Tucker's put it together on the defense, I think.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. So, John, are you going to pick a sleeper, or you already said your sleeper?
I already said Michigan State, yeah.
All right, that you're sticking Michigan State, and you're sticking to it.
I'm sticking to it, brother.
All right, buddy. All right, so we did Big Ten sleepers. All right, so who's going to win that ACC? Is it going to be Clemson, or are we going to take somebody else? Because I got one that I don't think y'all are going to take. Go ahead. So y'all go ahead and pick, but I'm going to tell you mine.
Are we picking the winner, or are we picking a sleeper?
You're picking the winner.
I mean, you know, Clemson's had the run of ACC for several years now. Now, listen, it may be at the tail end. I mean, last year they did not. They got knocked out. They did not win it. Their quarterback last year was not very good, to be honest with you. He was young, and Dabo's been going around talking about how much improved he is and all this other stuff this year. And, you know, we'll see. They do recruit really well. They do still have some studs on defense. You take Brian Breesy and Miles Murphy. I mean, they got a few players that are really studs on defense. So, you know, I think I'm going to stick with Clemson as the winner right now.
Okay.
But out of all of my winners, I'm a little more iffy about that one than I am any of them.
Yeah, it does seem a little flaky, doesn't it? Because there's about two games I know they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough games.
They are.
John, who you got?
I got NC State.
There you go, buddy.
And I tell you why. Devin Leary. He's a very underrated quarterback, and he's not, you know, a lot of people don't look at him as one of the tops, you know, in college football. Now, maybe ACC and whatnot, but he's a very underrated quarterback. And I believe if Clemson is going to trip up, it's going to be the NC State. And that's my pick. I just feel like, you know, Devin Leary is going to have an outstanding year. He had a good year last year. And, you know, just look out for the Wolfpack.
Yeah.
But other than that, I would I would think in the other division you would have Miami, but I'm not buying all that hype. Like, not until it's played on the field, because until you can actually get on the field and show what you can do, I don't believe in Miami. And that's just the facts.
See, here's the problem with not believing in Miami. What happens is you go into week 3 playing them, they're nobody, and all of a sudden you turn the ball over 4 times and they got a turnover chain and they're over there going nuts. And you don't realize it scores 40-12, halftime. That's the problem not believing in Miami. There's talent everywhere down there. So at any point, those Canes can strike. I take them seriously every time, every time. All right, so we got the ACC out the way, the ACC sleeper. You all want to get an ACC sleeper?
Well, so I kind of had NC State listed as my sleeper.
No, you can't be
John
stealing,
picked them as
Brad.
winner, so I'm going to go with a second choice. If I was going to go with an ACC sleeper besides those two, I'd go with Wake Forest.
Yes.
Wake Forest was 11-3 last year. They were a top 15 offense last year in the nation. Their quarterback, Sam Hartman, threw for 4,200 yards plus, 39 TDs. And they have 9 returning starters back on offense.
Oh yeah, they're loaded.
They have 9 returning starters back on offense. Their defense last year, they're going to have to shore up some stuff in order to make some real noise late in the season. Now, are they good enough? Can they beat a Clemson or an NC State? I think they can. So if I was going to pick one outside of the two that we said, I'd pick Wake Forest.
Yes, absolutely. John,
I picked NC State. That was my sleeper pick.
Yeah. I can't believe y'all didn't touch on Mac Brown, North Carolina, man.
I don't know. Like, the last couple of years, like that first year, I think he did really well, but it just seemed like after that, it just kind of evaporated. I don't know.
Kind of what John said about Miami so far. I'm not a believer. I mean, listen, I like Mac Brown, and I think he's got a decent team down there. Do I think he can go 8-4 or something like that? Yeah, he probably can. Is he going to win? Nah, he ain't going to win the ACC. I don't think
that's fair. I think that's fair. All right, so so it's established. Are we kind of establishing that Clemson is going to be the king of the conference, or is it going to be up for grabs? If because everyone we got Bama or the field, or Ohio State or the field, or but nobody's
truly the ACC's kind of up for grabs.
Yeah. It is. I agree.
If I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet on the ACC winner if it was me. I think that there's about really 4 or 5 teams. I mean, we didn't even cover Pittsburgh. They lost a lot, but they're in the conversation in the top 25 to start the year out.
Pittsburgh is. I'll say this about Pitt. Pitt will be tested when they play Tennessee.
They will.
That will see how far that they can possibly go.
That's home
because
game.
Tennessee's going to be very improved.
Isn't that at Pittsburgh?
It's at Pitt, yeah.
That's what I thought.
I'm not a Pitt believer, man. Anytime you lose a talent like they lost last year, you never seem to be the same. It takes you a while to build back and build different.
I agree. I just wanted to throw that one out there. Yeah. I mean, that they're being ranked and thought of as a top 25 team.
Yeah, I absolutely I wouldn't put my name on Pitt, not this year. Maybe down the line a little bit, but when you got somebody fake sliding on people like that, that's not replaceable.
Yeah, and the wide receiver they lost.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll talk about him a little bit later.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so we kind of established that. So who wins the Pac-12? That's a quick shift out west right there. But who wins Pac-12? Lincoln.
I still think Oregon does. Because I'll tell you what, Dan Lanning came from Georgia, and he walked into a good situation. He's got 14 starters returning. I mean, and he's a great defensive minded coach. And I just think still, even with the loss of Cristobal, I feel like, Oregon is still the top dog in the Pac-12. Now, that's not to say that USC won't make a little jump, because they got Williams from Oklahoma in the transfer portal. USC is going to be a lot better. You got to look at teams like Oregon State. But if I had to pick a team to win that Pac-12, beyond Oregon, it would have to be Utah. Yep. Utah has been up in there the last 3 or 4 years, and they've been in the championship game maybe 2 or 3 times.
They made it, man.
And I feel like actually one year they went, what was it, to the Sugar Bowl, or I think maybe the Orange Bowl somewhere. They played Alabama maybe.
They played it,
or no, it might have been Florida. I can't remember offhand, but
they played a very big bowl a few years
ago. They've been into the BCS Bowl before, and I feel like what he's doing there is the coach. He's doing a great job with that group, and that's one team to watch.
Yes, absolutely. So that's your Pac-12 sleeper too.
That's my Pac-12 sleeper. Yeah.
All right, Brad. What about you, man?
I actually have the Utah. Utah actually is my winner.
You damn. All right. There we go.
I actually have as my winner of the Pac-12.
Brad wins the Pac-12.
I mean, the running back, they have a running back that's like a fixture for 1,000 yards. He had 21 scores last year. Tavion Thomas.
I was waiting on that name.
Tavion Thomas. Their quarterback, Cameron Rising, which is a good little quirk for a name.
Yeah.
Anyway, quarterback is Cameron Rising. He had 20 TDs and only 5 interceptions last year. They went 10-4. They were 8-1 in the Pac-12 last year. They only give up 20 points a game on defense last year, which, in my opinion, for the Pac-12 to give up 20 points or less is a pretty big, the Pac-12, I think the Big 12 also, they don't quite play the same defense that the Big 10 and S.E.C play.
They don't play defense.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So if you can hold opponents to 20 points or less, I think that's a pretty good show on your defense. So I'm actually going with the Utah Utes to win the Pac-12.
All right, and you're going to take who is a sleeper?
As a sleeper? Well, I mean,
because if you're coming in with Utah as the big dog, your sleeper got to be somebody impressive. Like your sleeper going to be.
So my sleeper's going to be the 8-4 USC Trojans.
All right. Hey, Brad, I'm gonna give it to Brad, man. I'm gonna give it to Brad.
They were 8-4 last year. They had an awful season, train wreck. They bring in Lincoln Riley in the middle of the night.
After you said he wasn't gonna go, yeah.
Yeah, they bring in Lincoln Riley in the middle of the night. And I told you earlier, we'll get back to the Pittsburgh receiver, Jordan Addison, who won the college football awards for best receiver last year. Basically on an NIL deal, just went to the highest bidder and went out there to USC. And of course, they also, Lincoln Riley brought Caleb Williams with him from Oklahoma. Basically, I mean, he looked around, supposedly looked at other places, but I believe he knew he was going out there the whole time.
Okay.
But yeah, you know what I'm saying? I believe he knew he was going out there the whole time. So here's the deal with USC. They got a great offensive mind. They got a great combination of a quarterback and a wide receiver. They're offensively, they should be really, really good.
Yeah, and we've already established they don't play defense out there.
So right. And they don't, nobody plays great defense. So can they play good enough defense out there where they have a shot at winning? I think Lincoln Riley has a shot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with that. I'm gonna give the Pac-12 to Brad on this one, man. All right. Pac-12 is going to Brad. All right. So does Lincoln Riley succeed though? Because you're saying 8-4, so I'm gonna assume that I mean, 8-4 is bowling though. So is that a success? You know, kind of got to determine your own definition of success here. But 8-4 Pete Carroll days sends you out the door.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I said they went 4-8 last
Well,
year.
I understand that, but if
Yeah.
they go
Um,
8-4, is that success? Is Lincoln Riley going to succeed this year?
do you
That's what I'm.
are you see? So is this question just for this year?
For is Lincoln Riley going to succeed in general? But what about this year? What are they going to do this year?
Well, I just picked them as my sleepers, so
Yeah.
I think they're going to have a decent season, and I also think that Lincoln Riley will do good out at USC. I think he's a good offensive mind. I think that a lot of the kids, he's young. A lot of the kids like to, you know, gravitate to that, and he gets a lot of good players. And I think
Yeah, Southern California is not a bad place to recruit to. You know, hey, palm trees and
go
bikinis,
there.
palm trees and bikinis. Come on out. We're paying people.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we got USC. So we're gonna go to our favorite conference here, boys. Who's gonna win the S.E.C? And don't everybody rush to the door at once to say Bama. So here we go. We're gonna open the door. We're gonna give it to John first.
I'm picking Alabama. And I just, at the end of the day, Saban is Saban, and and we saw last year with Georgia, they finally knocked them off the perch. But I feel like Saban's going to have a little bit more energy out of that to come back this year and win the championship. And I'll just even go as far as saying my Heisman pick. I'm going to go Will Anderson.
Okay.
Will Anderson is an absolute load in the middle for that defense in Arkansas. In Alabama,
you're going defense for the Heisman.
I'm going defense with the high. Hey, Charles Woodson won it.
All right. Hey,
I'm just saying it.
Don't change it season.
It happens. But I feel like Alabama's defense is, they return, I believe, 8 starters, maybe 7 or 8 starters, and I feel like that they're going to be locked in and ready to go, and it's going to be a redemption tour, I think, for Saban.
All right.
I feel like, and I feel like this. I'm not saying he'll go out the door, but I feel like if he wins another one, it's possible he could give it up. I'm not saying he will, but what's he got left to prove? What's Saban got left to prove? I mean, look at what he's done.
Pro ball.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, college ball. He's pretty much done it. I mean,
yeah, he's got more championships than I do on the game over there. I'll tell you that. So,
sure.
So you got Bama as your champion. All right. So who's your sleeper?
Oh, you had to do this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Tennessee.
Tennessee. All right.
I like Josh Heupel. Last year they led the S.E.C. in plays of over 40 plus yards. But the biggest thing with Tennessee that they need to improve on is the defense, because your defense can't take that many snaps and the offense play the way they play.
Okay.
Because you tire them out that way.
Absolutely.
But and here's my early pick. We'll find out what Tennessee's made of when they play Pittsburgh.
Right.
Early on. If they can beat Pittsburgh in Pitt, and a Pitt that's ranked, we can start saying, hey, maybe Tennessee's doing this. Maybe Tennessee is actually going to do something.
Right.
And I feel like, I think the game against Florida will tell the tale, though. I believe that game's in Knoxville, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Now, going back to Alabama, though, I will tell you that in every championship game, 50% of the time, Saban wins every time. And that's a stat you can stand by. Every 150% in championship games. So before you say anything, Brad, about Saban getting canned, let me hear about Saban and who you're taking.
Oh, I knew that was coming.
Well, so the last time there was a hot seat
50% a fail, Brad. 50% a fail.
And picked Saban as the hot seat guy. I gave him a little ragging on that. So anyway, winner for the S.E.C. I mean, we all seen what Georgia did last year, and if I had to pick a second team that can actually challenge them, it would have to be Georgia. I think they are right there with them. I think they're right there with them talent-wise. I think they're right there with them, at every position across the field. And I also think that Kirby Smart is just under Nick Saban anyway. I mean, he's right there with him. And
But
if I had
can
to pick, go ahead.
I was just want to say something real quick. Georgia only returns 10 starters.
They lost a lot.
And I'm not saying that they're going to be there's doom and gloom in Athens. That's not what I'm saying. But there's going to be a little, hey.
There is. They lost a lot, but they have a lot to replace it with.
They do, especially with the 5-star talent. But if there's a couple teams that could slip up, maybe, and get them, they play at Mississippi State early in the year, and then they go to Kentucky.
John's an avid Mississippi State fan.
Yeah, he's okay. So
for the Bulldogs.
They're my second slate. They're my second slate.
My point is that Georgia just done it last year. So do I think that Georgia's going to repeat and be able to beat Alabama again? I give the edge to Saban. So if you're asking me who the winner is, I'm going to have to give the edge to Saban, just because he doesn't lose back to back like that. I mean, he just doesn't do it.
Well, he's 50%. So yeah, if he wins one, he's going to lose the other. If he loses one, he's going to win the other. That's how it goes.
Yeah. So if you're asking me who's going to win it, I'm going with Bama, but it's mainly because I don't think Georgia can do it again against them.
Right. Okay.
All right.
So
now my sleeper, I'm going to have to be a homer here and go with UK.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to have to be a homer. I mean, and, they return a quarterback that since the spring has been blowing up with NFL people saying that he's going to be a first rounder. We'll see. He's got to step up this season and perform at that level. And if Kentucky's really going to be a sleeper, I'm talking about a 10-2 season. That would be an excellent season for UK. That Georgia game at the end of the season, it's not the very last game, but it's November 19th. If I believe that, Will Levis and the receivers will do well, our running back room, and I say our because I'm a UK fan. Their running back room is loaded. There's a question with Chris Rodriguez. I believe that he will be playing. I think he might miss 1 or 2 games early on. I think he'll be playing. We got Keaton Upshaw back as a tight end. You add him to Brendan Bates and Isaiah Cummings. Our defense, the front seven, is fantastic. The corners are a little bit of a question. The corners are a little bit of a question.
Y'all got a good punter too?
We actually do have a good punter. We actually do have a good punter. And I believe that because we have a leader like Will Levis, I believe that we have a shot.
Okay.
Even at Georgia, it's in Lexington. Can we do it? I don't know, but I believe we have a shot.
Either way, that crowd's going to be nuts.
Oh, I was at the Florida game last year, and it was amazing.
Hey, let's stay on track here. All right. So, who's going to win the Heisman? John's already got his pick in defense. You want to change that because
yeah, I'm not sure about defense.
I think you might want to give it to Bryce Young or Will Levis.
I'll tell you this. I'll give you a couple sleepers in my pick.
I don't want a couple sleepers. I want your pick.
If I had to go with a guy, I would look at Bajan Robinson
Okay.
from Texas. Dude's an absolute freak, especially running the football.
Yeah.
And he puts me in mind a little bit of like Reggie Bush, just the way he runs and his cuts.
Another Reggie Bush, man.
I know that's a hot take. So, but if I had to put some sleepers in there, Hendon Hooker would be one from Tennessee. And a lot of people that are not watching football apparently based on picks and stuff is KJ Jefferson from Arkansas.
Okay.
There was one list where he wasn't even in the top 10.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, KJ Jefferson might be one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the SEC.
All right. What about you, Brad? Who's your Heisman pick?
A Heisman pick?
Yeah. And if you say Will Levis,
No, I'm not going to say Will. I want to, but I'm not going to say Will Levis.
Is it going to be your punter?
I think it's going to be awfully hard
Listen,
for
he
Bryce.
can kick the shit out of the ball.
I think it's going to be hard for Bryce Young to repeat. But at the same time, if Alabama does run the S.E.C. and win, then Bryce Young's going to be right there. If we believe, and me and John both picked Alabama, if we believe Alabama's going to be 12-1 or 13-0, Bryce Young's going to be right there. He's going to be awfully hard to beat. Now, if you're asking me who could be right there with him, I think C.J. Stroud could be from Ohio State. I think it's possible. I think he could be right there with him as well.
Yeah.
And if you want to give a sleeper pick, I'll do my sleeper from Wake Forest, Sam Hartman.
See, I'm kind of in love with the guy that I'm surprised that John didn't say, man. Will Rogers, man.
He's up there.
He is he kicks ass. And I don't know why more people are on that train, but the kid can play football.
Let me tell you this one real quick.
I
There's
think
one that a lot of people do. What now?
I think with Rogers, it's the quick dink and dunk that they do. I mean, he just throws the ball 5 yards.
Hey, that's the offense. That's the offense.
Yeah, but I'm saying you're asking, you don't know why people are not on him like for what he does. I think it's that is what I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, you got to play the offense, you know?
Deuce Vaughn from Kansas State would be one to watch too.
Okay.
That's another one.
All right. So we did the Heisman. Who's the best defense in the SEC? You can't say Kentucky and you can't say Mississippi State because I'm tired of hearing about them. So give me somebody new, somebody different. Give me some different colors.
Georgia. I still think, I just think Georgia's still got the best deep. Now, if you look at this season, that's what we're saying. Looking at this year, you got to look at Alabama. Alabama might have the best defense they've had in a long time, maybe since Saban's been there, and that's a really big hot take. And now Georgia returns Nolan Smith. There's a few guys on that team that came back, but at the end of the day, if I had to pick one going into this year, it would be Alabama because you got Will Anderson on that defense.
Somebody that we haven't touched on. Defensively, I think Texas A&M could be up there on the defensive side of the ball as well.
The Aggies are pretty stacked on the
Arkansas is real good
on defense. The Aggies are pretty. Yeah, Arkansas is probably a pretty good defensive pick as well.
All right, here is the age-old question within college ball, the game we love. It's not all the way fair, but it's like 90% fair most of the time. If it doesn't rain. Is Notre Dame going to sneak into this?
So I'll go first on this Notre Dame thing. Okay, so they've been recruiting. He had been recruiting really well. He has good players, and the biggest thing I see with Notre Dame this time, their coach left. He goes to LSU, and the players actually went to bat for Marcus Freeman. He was just the interim coach, and they were actually looking and trying to interview coaches, and the players went to bat for Marcus Freeman. And that tells me a whole lot. First of all, he's a great recruiter. He builds such a rapport with these kids that, that they just love him. And to play this game of football, you either got to love the game, you got to love your teammates, you got to love your coach. You know what I mean? You really got to love it.
Yeah.
To play this game. So I don't know if they will crack it this year. They just lost their coach stuff, but they kept that team together.
Yes,
They kept that team together. There wasn't a mass exodus of transfers and all that kind of stuff. So do I think that they can be right there in the 5, 6, 7 spot towards the end of the rankings, the college football playoff rankings? I think they can, and they could sneak in.
Yeah. What about you, John? Is it going to rain up there, South Bend, or are they going to be screaming for playoffs?
I just think, being a first-year coach like that, I think there's going to be some challenges, putting your new system in and bringing in, the new recruiting class. And I just feel like Marcus Freeman is the absolute best fit for that program, I think. He's recruited well. I think he's recruiting better than Brian Kelly right now.
Yeah.
At that pace. And but this year I don't think so, because if you look at Notre Dame, what was it? The last couple of times they've been in there, what have they done? I mean, they lost in the championship to Alabama. Then they lost in the semifinals to Clemson. And then they lost again to Alabama another year. And it was never competitive. And they just never was on that level, S.E.C. wise, and especially against Clemson.
So do they ever get back to where they were?
I think they do, especially with Marcus Freeman. I think they get back. It probably take a couple of years, but they'll be back there.
Okay. What about you, Brad? You think they get back a couple years?
Get back to college football playoff?
Get back to where they were back in the Notre Dame days of the early 90s.
Yeah, I think Freeman will get them there. I do.
Okay, it's going to be Freeman?
Yeah, I think Freeman will get them there, Marcus Freeman. I mean, I think that he just has that kind of pull for him. He's recruiting, like John said, an amazing temp pace for them right now. And, Brian Kelly didn't have a bunch of chumps, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and he kept that team together. Like I said, there wasn't a mass exodus of players. With this transfer rule nowadays, while everybody could have left. Look at LSU; they had a ton of people leave.
Right. Can I say this real quick? We was talking about the S.E.C. and I don't want to get back on this topic, but if you want to really look at a coach that has done some amazing work, is Shane Beamer.
Yeah.
Look at last year. He inherited a mess with Will Muschamp and the situation there. And he even got Zach Pickens to stay back, their big top player for South Carolina. And what he did with that team and taking them to a bowl game says a lot about what kind of culture that Shane Beamer is bringing to South Carolina. So if I had to say my two sleepers, or maybe three, Mississippi State, Tennessee, and South Carolina, because Spencer Rattler is not some, junk quarterback that's come off the street. He's an actually good quarterback. Look at his freshman year at Oklahoma. And everybody says, well, he just, that and that, but look at him. He's a 5-star recruit.
Yeah.
it's hard to recruit 5-star players, and especially getting them in the portal.
Right.
And Beamer did that, and I think Beamer is doing a heck of a job at South Carolina.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to throw that in.
No, 100%. Well, we're going to wrap it up there. That's all for the #1 podcast on college football down south. Thank you for watching.